All right, let me make an official introduction. I think we have everybody. We're just missing Anna. I'm going to try to convince Anna because we need women power in this little group to put some balance. Too many guys here. By the way, we got to recruit women. That's our goal for North Carolina. So let me make some introductions. So the one that I know the longest here, believe it or not, is Kevin Packler. Kevin is it's a Miamian as well that got exported to North Carolina and been there for already like, what is it, like 15 years, 10, 15 years?
Probably just doing the math now in my head, not that you say it. I was going to say 12, but I think it's 13 now. So yeah, quite a bit.
Holy crap. Wow. So hold on one second. Let me get let me turn off all right, there we go. Ed, I muted you just for a little bit, okay? Because we can't hear everybody else. So let me make quick introductions over here. So Kevin, why don't you talk to us a little bit about what you do, and then I'll tell you who's around here.
Yeah. So trying to think of the elevator pitch about what I do again. I think I've been locked up too long with the COVID stuff. So basically I work at an ad agency, been doing e-commerce stuff for about 15 years now. Sort of worked at different software as a service companies, and then eventually transferred into more of like an agency consultancy environment. And so I'm working with companies to essentially figure out how to utilize online advertising channels, sell online, and that goes all the way down through really more of like a specialization in Amazon, because Amazon became kind of a big thing in the last 15 years or so. So it, it's kind of not one of those things they taught you in school, but there you go. It's a profession now. So really been doing that, and I work remote. So I work for an agency out in Knoxville, Tennessee, believe it or not. There's actually interesting agency out there, and basically, been working with clients, since remote since about 2008, when I used to work for Seattle companies. So I sort of jest about the COVID thing, but realistically, I've been working from home for 12 years, so everyone's in my environment now, which is kind of cool.
Kevin, what's the agency? I went to school in Knoxville.
Oh, nice. The Tombras Group, or Tombras?
Yep. I got a couple friends that work for them. That's cool.
Oh, nice. Yeah, they've grown quite a bit. Knoxville's a cool place too. Every time I visit there, sort of nestled in the mountains there. It's neat.
Super cool. It's super cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, and I'll share the little secret. So Kevin and I met through church, believe it or not. So Kevin took over. So I used to run. By the way, the whole concept of Apprentice Worldwide really came about from the many years that I was dealing with a lot of people's issues with young adults. And then I realized that I didn't like, that I suffered enough. By the way, Kevin knows what I'm talking about, that we suffered enough with the dealing with people's craziness. I know it's a society, a community service to help people that have issues. But some of the issues I couldn't deal with it anymore. And I said, you know what, I'm going to take a step back. I'll let the professionals deal with those stuff. And I just focused on, with Apprentice now, I just focus on helping people, develop a good plan in their career and succeed. And I'm more of a mentor type for business. But I did that for like 8 years, and then Kevin took over, and then he left. He left after that, but that's how we all started in, like around 2006, 7, no? So a long time ago. And then I met Jeff. I actually met Jeff in 2007, and he used to work on the trade team at Bank of America when I joined in. So Jeff, why don't you talk about you?
Talk about me? Well, after I left Hernon in sales, I went to Global Trade Exposure Monitoring, which I'm still there after, I think, 11 years. So we monitor trade finance facilities for products such as letters of credit and trade loans. And that's the gist of it, but there's more to it than that, but that's the gist of it. I don't have, it's all internal contacts. So I'm not on the phone all the time. Don't deal with external customers at all. So that's the big difference between when I worked with Hernan.
Yeah.
Not
More
as
quiet.
stressful. It's not as stressful at all.
True.
And I have time to go out and stalk celebrities if I need to.
We'll share that again, I guess. Jeff, you want to talk a little bit about that since you mentioned it?
Well, the pandemic kind of hurt me, but as a hobby, I stalk celebrities. Used to get a lot of autographs, but mainly now I just get pictures with it around town, I should say, hotels, airports. I have some connections here and there too, or outside of venue. Anywhere I like to research where someone's going to be, and I'll be there.
Did you repost Cam Newton's picture lately or what?
No, I have a few of those too.
Give me 1 second. Hold on, Jeff. So I'll go back. Then I actually met Mike. He's on the line, so I'll pass it on to Ed. Ed, why don't you tell us about what you do and how we met and something about Apprentice. He's the first one that I recruited to Apprentice as a mentor. He's been with me for the past 6 years, mentoring people all over the world. Ed.
Hey, can you hear me now? Can you hear me right? Yeah, okay. Well, I'm Ed Bermudez. I technically am in Charlotte. Actually, Charlotte is home. I've been in Charlotte for about 22 years now. Went to college here, and however, for the past several years, it seems like the bank, Wells Fargo, keeps sending me back down to Florida. So now, for the past several years, I've been the global advisor for commercial banking, which is mostly middle market banking, and recently business banking as well, for the state of Florida for Wells Fargo. So Hernan and I met working together in global banking, a global bank for Wells Fargo several years ago. And, we worked together for several years and, started working together in Apprentice Worldwide as well. Great initiative Hernan, has gotten off the ground. And today, well, I'm spending the quarantine here at home with the family in Charlotte, but I do spend a lot of time traveling down to Florida. And like I said earlier, and also now responsible for the East Coast of the Latino diverse segment for the bank as well, which is mostly middle market initiative. So that's what I've been doing for the past several years, and here I am trying to see how we can further this initiative.
Yeah, bro. And we, when we started, we had probably we started in Miami, and then we had Orlando, Puerto Rico, and now, Charlotte's probably like the 6th or 7th city. Now we're in 32 cities, and going to 50 cities by the end of the year, God willing. However, wherever the life takes us, but it's a big expansion initiative on purpose. By the way, we do it because we want to create work for us. So remember, this network is not for me. I already have the network, by the way. I already know you guys, right? So the point is to help, Jack and help Mike, who are starting in their careers, connect with people all over the world and make their dreams come true, As we pass on to retirement, and not yet, I still have another 10, 15 years. But the legacy that I leave my friends are my friends, So that's what I tell people. The greatest asset in my life is to have friends like you and be able to share my friendships with other people that, that see the beauty of you guys, So again, I don't take it lightly when I know Ed takes off his time. He has 2 small children, and he dedicates his time to help when everybody has questions about their career and what to do. And that's that little bit of time that you give, it changes the world, changes the people's perspective. And what I learned in young adult ministry is that if you take care of the business side of the equation, if you're making money and you're stable with that, kind of like the other issues kind of fade away, Yeah, you got to deal with it. But if you're making good money and you're happy with that, the rest kind of fixes itself, So at any rate, thank you, bro. We'll get back to.
Absolutely,
I have questions for you, but I got questions for you. But I wanted to.
Absolutely.
To
No, I'll be around. I'm just going to excuse myself 1 second. I got to get on the call real quick, but I'll be right back.
All right, cool. And then I don't know if Mike is still on the call. He'll probably wave, probably seeing us. I know his phone is there, but if not, Jack, why don't you introduce yourself to the guys here?
Yeah, I'm Jack Beard. I went to the University of Tennessee, and I graduated with a marketing and entrepreneurship degree. I was president of my Alpha Kappa Psi chapter at UT, and now I'm back home in Nashville and starting my own digital marketing / media company here in the city. So I'm trying to get that off the ground while I find a job that can kind of teach me some skills that I don't have while I make a little bit of money. And then hopefully once my business takes off, I'll be able to quit that 9 to 5 and work on my passion full time. So I love entertainment. I love business. I love being able to bring that to people. So hopefully my next 5 years are great here in the city. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Awesome. And you know what? We all started where you're at, right? So you can only take one step at a time, right? And see where it takes you. But I know you, right? You're a focused guy. You've always been focused from what I understand in your career. And that's why you're here. So it's just a matter of taking it one step at a time, bro. And if you fail, you dust it off and you keep going to the next thing,
Yep, that's right. That's right.
Awesome. All right, Mike. Mike is back.
I'm back. I'm here. Never left. So yeah, I just graduated a couple months ago from University of Miami, Hernan's alma mater as well, and from the business school and degrees in finance and management. And then just a couple weeks ago, I registered for the CFP program. I did it through, so it's affiliated with the University of Miami as well. That's self-paced, and then I'm starting that next week. And I think that kind of goes along with my long-term goal of eventually becoming a financial planner. I think that's a big step in the direction of that, I guess, dream, if you will, turning into reality. And that's kind of, I guess, where I'm at right now. Currently not employed, but definitely, I think slowly but surely making strides in the right direction. So kind of where we're at.
Awesome. So you guys, now Mike is trying to figure out, the same thing, how to make money while he accomplishes his passion of wealth management. We actually have on Thursday, we have the wealth management group. So the way that Apprentice works is we have groups, we call them teams, right? If the best way to describe it, what our teams are mentoring communities, where people come in and out whenever they want, right? And there's not a formal time commitment per se, but people, like, whenever Jack asks a question, he throws a flare, hey, I need a little bit of help here, and then people come to the rescue and try to solve that issue. And then so we have that in all the major cities, at least in the East Coast, and we're trying to do more on the West Coast and the Midwest. And then the other thing is we have industry groups. So everybody who's in a vertical, we try to connect as well. So all the bankers, all the finance guys, all the marketing guys, all the entrepreneurs, all the digital marketing, all the, so we have those, industries, and that way people can also share best practices in those segments. And that's kind of cool, because obviously now that we have Zoom, and we'll have Zoom for a little bit, it's great to see, if we're going to talk about digital marketing or e-commerce, like Kevin said, we can talk to everybody who's doing that around the world, that basically can share with you best practices on how to solve an issue or get another job or whatever. So we have that as well. And that's it, man. There's nothing more than that, besides expanding, engaging people, and helping people, which is really what we can do, right? Because we don't, all we need is to use our talents and our experience to share what we know, with no judgment, by the way. If you screw up, or we're not gonna judge you. We screwed up plenty. Raise your hand, right? I've screwed up plenty. So we don't judge. We don't judge. You can come in and say whatever, and we'll take care of the situation. Talk to me about North Carolina. What's going on there? Who wants to share about what's going on? And you guys seeing any opportunities? Is everybody locked up like in Miami? What's going on?
No, we lost our RNC convention to Florida.
Yeah, well, true. But that's another political move. So we won't talk politics here, because that, if not, we change it into another long 3-hour chat. But the reality is,
we can make another vertical for that.
Joshua.
We can make another vertical for that one.
the reality is that the world, like Hamilton, that's coming out on July 3rd in off Broadway, the real Broadway, the world is upside down, bro. But yeah, so besides the president and whatever's happening with the politics and BLM and the issues that are happening there, how's that impacting the day-to-day activity that you guys are doing? Is that really disrupting everything, or are you guys not involved with politics or anything related to BLM, or what do you guys see?
I think it's actually given me a sense of focus and a sense of man, I can really start nailing down what I want to do, kind of thing. And again, not that any of these issues aren't important, but it's given the world a time to just kind of calm down. And now I can really zone in while the world is kind of on pause. I can kind of zone in and start something, and I don't have to feel like I have to catch up to everything that's going on. And it's actually given a lot of attention to the stuff that I'm doing too. So that's super exciting, because a lot of people's attention is diverted elsewhere, at least right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's made us kind of pause and reevaluate what is important and the areas that have meaning in our lives. I think from a professional's perspective, working with different companies, it's also caused them to evaluate who they're doing business with, why they're doing business with certain people, and just really kind of make sure that they're doing what matters, right? Making a contribution, both social and economic. And yeah, I think it has changed the fabric of society to some level. By the way, sorry I had to step off. I had a call that came in that I had to take.
So the Anna says she's still working with some compliance stuff. So she says, hi, Mike.
Oh, yeah. She and I were able to get together before the crazy happened and got connected. So cool.
So
person.
Mike, so you're the only one that hasn't introduced yourself. So introduce yourself and say what you do, and talk to the guys here about your project with your wife. That's kind of interesting.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm at Bank of America, specifically trade finance. I'm client facing, and therefore I have to jump when my red phone rings. It's literally red, and my bank cell phone. And that's why I was missing for part of this call. So I apologize for that. But that was a chemical company that we're working with that I need to respond to. But I work with companies that have revenues of under $2 billion and are in the Midwest, Southwest, or Mid-Atlantic, and help them find and structure transactions to do with importing and exporting, specifically letters of credit and other types of instruments that they might be using. Really interesting days in terms of what people are looking for and asking for. Lots of companies that are wanting to make sure they get paid. No surprise there, but maybe a few more than there used to be in terms of wanting to make sure that they're going to get paid for what they're shipping overseas. I've been at the bank for 11 years, known Jeff Messler for a good part of that, and Hernan and I worked together for a few years as well before he left Bank of America. But before that, I was a grad student at Purdue, and before that, I worked for another bank doing foreign institution, foreign FI sales. So kind of a sales guy, and have a lot of international kind of experience when it comes to helping make international trade happen. That's my, I also enjoy long walks on the beach and everything else, right? my personal ad. But anyway, I don't know if that's the type of thing that other people shared or not, but happy to be here and happy to be part of the group.
Yeah. So actually, Micah and his wife are closing the gap between cultures. So
Mike, that's right. You asked me to speak about that, and I totally forgot. Yeah. Thank you for the prompt there, Hernan. So there's a family passion project that we have. I'm fluent in Spanish, and really enjoy teaching our kids Spanish. I have 5 kids, and oldest is 15. And my wife and I have been teaching them Spanish. Now, my wife doesn't speak Spanish, but she's learning, and she's been learning for a couple of years and is actually pretty good. But we find families that are wanting to learn Spanish and match them up with families that are wanting to learn English, and we coordinate what we call language exchanges. And we provide materials and curriculum and a guide, as well as a community of learners, and badges, all types of positive, prizes, other types of things to encourage people to actually meet and learn another language. And it's our way of building bridges and tearing down the walls that some people are putting up to divide us. So right now we have 120 families that are meeting on a weekly basis to practice their language, and looking to add more next month, actually. So really exciting time.
So I know Ed's kids speak Spanish, but Jeff, you can always hire Mike, huh? And Kevin, your kids speak Spanish?
I'm out of practice, though.
Well, there are days my kids don't listen to me in English or Spanish, so it's not a foolproof method.
Now, your kids speak Spanish, Kevin?
Only a little bit, muy poquito. Like they have a Spanish class, so they learn a little bit. Well, when they did have actual class, right? So they were picking up a little bit, but not a huge amount. I'd love to have them learn more, but I am not the guy to do that. So hopefully they'll pick up a little bit more as they go.
Now your oldest kid, 13, 14?
Oh, for me?
Your daughter?
Oh man, well, she acts like a teenager, but she's 10 now. So, inside, yeah, 14. But, birth certificate, 10. And
wow.
Yeah. My boy's 8. So, I don't have 5. That's impressive juggling, man. But, the 2 keeps me busy, for sure. And, actually, I'm kind of looking over my shoulder here because they should be coming in from camp at some point here in the near future. But yeah, no, they're definitely growing up. It's funny. They're out of or moving out of the kid phase, and they're seeing little touches of like a young adult personality starting to pop up. So, interesting time.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. Well, mine both give me a freaking attitude every day. But you know, I love them to death. I already told you guys that I'm gonna be hanging out with you hopefully more often now that Valerie's gonna go there to Wake Forest. Actually, Ed convinced me to have her go to Wake Forest. So Ed has like 20 degrees, by the way. He's a lawyer. He's 3 business degrees. What else? Oh, you're on mute. Hold on.
Yeah, I mean, I have a law degree from Venezuela, which is, you know, what I was right before I came to Charlotte. And I actually came to Charlotte to go back to school. I went to UNC Charlotte, so I'm a 49er, and got a couple degrees in finance there, a minor in economics. And then I decided that, you know, I wanted to keep on going. So I got the one degree, the one advanced degree that I think has been the most useful, and it will probably be very useful going forward, is an advanced degree in organizational change management. And as you guys probably know, and you notice, you know, with everything that's going on, change is the only certainty that we have in the future. And, you know, for us in banking, I think that the way how the banking industry has changed in the past several years and what the expectations are based on technology and other alternative ways to do business, I think change will be with us for a very long time. At least for me, I think that I will have to reinvent myself several times over before I get to retirement. I also went to Wake Forest and I got my MBA from Wake Forest. So Renee's daughter and I are going to have that in common. We both went to Wake Forest. You know, Renee asked the question earlier, and you know, I wanted to opine. And you guys said, you know, several really good things, but you know, one thing that this pandemic, if you will, have taught us all is that we got to be ready, and I don't think many people was, you know, to do business differently. The whole concept of working remotely, I know for those in Bank of America, that was something that you guys implemented a few years ago, and there were some variances to the concept up to this point, and sort of came back, you know, to a certain extent to the most traditional approach. But at least for us at Wells, we have determined that it was a successful strategy. I mean, there was a good productivity. Of course, Wells is going through a lot of stuff nowadays, and there will be some changes going forward. But, you know, at least we demonstrated that, you know, that concept is something that we can adapt to. And with that being said, you know, I wanted to piggyback on Hernan's questions earlier. My apologies. I'm actually driving, and it's raining cats and dogs here in Charlotte. You know, how things are different. Well, I mean, I think we're going to be seeing really everything that has changed or will be changing as we get out of, you know, this pandemic and sort of on the other side of the economic recovery. For us internally, we're already seeing a lot of variances in what real estate is going to look like, commercial properties, you know. Basically, our commercial real estate teams are at a standstill, and there is not a whole lot of expectation they're going to be doing a whole lot of businesses in the near future. We are already talking about how we are going to be getting rid of some of the space that we have and how we're going to become more efficient going forward. So that's one small thing, sort of the low-hanging fruit. But I think everybody's going to see different ways on how the business is going to change. Michael was mentioning, you know, that a lot of people want, there's been a lot of open accounts in the past several years. I have seen actually how trade and trade-related frauds are back in the front end now because nobody really has a lot of confidence on how people are performing. So they want to make sure that they get back to the basics and get more of that start with your confidence, if you will, on how to engage that process. So that's another thing, another low-hanging fruit that we're seeing now. But I think will be a lot of changes, and we got to be ready to make those changes.
Oh, that caught. You got
on the
cut off.
one hand, continue to be productive, but also we gotta see when with the Apprentice Worldwide and the advice. But that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, I'm driving here in the rain, so it's a lot of bad weather. So I don't know if my connection is actually doing well.
Hey, so the cost of living, are real estate prices going up? What do you see in North Carolina? Is it a good place to invest in the future, or still expensive as hell? I know, Kevin, you've been checking out home from what I see, no?
I don't think. I think North Carolina is still at a very good price point. I mean, there are no doubts that people is moving in more than ever. Actually, people from Florida is coming in at a very rapid pace, and people from New York. You can see them both culturally, sort of mixing up with the population. But I think the prices are still reasonable. Taxes are still reasonable. And I think it will be more of that going forward. If you go to Western North Carolina, you actually see a lot of those secondary housings, a lot of people coming from other states moving in, the Asheville, Brevard County area. So I think it's still a good place to be. I mean, Charlotte has become very diverse, not only, people-wise, but also, the economic activity. We continue to be the second financial district in the country after New York, over San Francisco actually today. But you still also a lot of manufacturing, you see a lot of warehousing, you see a lot of distribution, a lot of technology, a lot of private money investments, green initiatives. So I think it's a very balanced place to be. We'll see what that does to the economy and to the way how the price points really behave going forward, because it will certainly affect that in the future. But to this point, I think it's really still a good place to invest if you can.
What do you guys think? I know again. I know, Kevin. Are you looking at homes, or what's? I saw a few posts.
Well, just to put it into microcosm, was out home shopping today because I saw a listing that came up last night. And so just to give you an idea of what the real estate market here is in Raleigh, by this afternoon, so less than 24 hours later, there were multiple full price offers for that for that home, and one all cash offer. So, not even with financing. So, the real estate market here is moving really fast. There was a slowdown for the COVID crisis or epidemic, but then ever since it's heated up, and of course, super low interest rates, the government's propping up, half the economy at this point, right? I forget what percentage of GDP is attributed to the federal government right now. It's something like 50%, I think, or whatever that is. But I mean, it's just the interest rates have everybody, pushing here. So it continues, at least locally, continues to be a great market. See a lot of people coming in, and just, I think what's interesting, going back to the BLM movement, is that I saw one 30-year Republican strategist say he's never seen as much change as he has in the last 30 days. And this was like a month-old comment, so, think last 60 days. But there's never been such a seismic shift across the country in terms of perceptions, in terms of attitudes. And I've seen that at, not only the state level, where they've pulled down Confederate monuments here, around the state capitol. So you're kind of getting out of that kind of old South, I think, mentality, or just sort of personality that some people associate with North Carolina. And, not to get political, but if we were to sort of sidebar slightly, most Confederate monuments went up in response to Jim Crow laws and civil rights. So it's really not so much about honoring your heritage as much as it is about really kind of cultural statement about, sort of separating classes and races and whatnot. So if anyone wants to have that side debate, please feel free. I'm happy to talk or discuss. But I think it's a positive development across the state, across the country, and then even down to just, what I'm seeing at the company, at really kind of the most micro level, what we're seeing inside the business is that we're seeing different hiring practices. So HR is evaluating how we're looking at other people from education levels to backgrounds, making sure that we're more balanced ethnically across the company. We're also seeing a lot of sensitivity from brands and clients in terms of what message they're putting out. And you see this in Ben and Jerry versus CrossFit, right? Where CrossFit was not at all receptive to the BLM movement, and their owner basically was, well, he had to quit. I won't say he was kicked out of the company, but all the franchises started breaking off from CrossFit. They had a whole bunch of issues. He's having to sell his portion or share of the company now. Compare that to Ben and Jerry's. That's got a lot of positive press because their owners protested and they got arrested as part of the protest. So you have that type of massive shift. And it's not saying that, you know, it's 100% of the country. I mean, obviously there's still divergent views. We're the most polarized country, or the most polarized as a country we've been in at least the last 80 years. And so we have these sort of two divergent views, but all that's getting shaken up now. So, you know, again, going back to sort of the micro level, I mean, we're seeing it both from a marketing standpoint where people are changing, and one of the internal debates is pulling social media spend and Facebook spend, where companies are looking at and analyzing whether or not they should spend on Facebook, for example, because of all the controversy. So Coke's pulled their budget, Unilever's pulled their budget. I think Pepsi, I believe, is also gonna stop advertising on Facebook. So you have this kind of like cascade that's happening. And kind of the one, you know, caveat to that is I think it might be as much about performance as it is about perception. I mean, Coke was having issues. CPG doesn't tend to get as much benefit from social. So, you know, I don't know how much it is protest versus how much it is also a little bit of financials. But regardless, you have this huge shakeout, not only happening at the state level, you know, business level, personal level, company level, that, you know, to me, it's a different situation than what it was 6 months ago. And to, you know, it's almost like a 9/11 style event where 9/11 happens, and it's a different culture, different society after. And it's that type of shakeout. And whether that's, you know, in my opinion, spurred by the pandemic, you have a whole bunch of people sitting at home online, not going out. So you have this sort of like, sort of boiling effect where, you know, everything's sort of percolating and sort of spilling over. You know, I think all that comes together. So if, you know, if you're a history teacher trying to show someone or talk to someone about what happened with 2020, I mean, forget about it. You're going to spend, you know, the entire semester talking about everything that culminated into this year and kind of erupted over. But, you know, I would say there's absolutely been a seismic shift from BLM. And again, even North Carolina is going to be a different place because me and my kids, we won't see the same statues anymore. And when we go down to the state capitol, we walk around downtown because they've been pulled down. And it's just, you know, that's a significant change. I went on a tangent, guys. I'm sorry, but I had to connect the dots and get my comments in. So
no, but I like it because, you know, we live in a bubble here in Miami. It's a Latin bubble, as you know. So we don't, and because it's such a Latin bubble, and Ed is perfect. I guess he lived here, is Latin, and then goes over there. You do see, I mean, you do see that there's I guess that the situation was tense, but now I think the next generation, so my daughter's generation, obviously us, the what's our generation?
I mean,
what generation? Gen X, right? We're Gen Xers. So Gen Xers down, I guess, are more, you know, breaking the paradigms. You know, there's a shift, and we were the ones that started, I guess, the diversity and inclusion movement in every major company, and now it's kind of like we have to. No, before it was an optional discussion, kind of like a sidebar discussion, and now I see it. It's the number one discussion that people are having around hiring practices, you know, to make sure that they're, I guess, you know, not affirmative action, right, to that level, but to the level that they look at every single candidate and make sure they get the most qualified person, not the buddy of the buddy of the buddy, no? And that's kind of like that's what I see in my industry. So I haven't shared. And I wanted to share, I don't know if you knew, but what I do is my largest client is Wells Fargo. So Wells Fargo, basically, we help Wells Fargo mitigate their global risk around the world. And my company is focused primarily on foreign markets and helping companies. We shifted to supply chain in the past year. So we're doing a lot more supply chain coverage. And then what I do is I call on banks and non-bank financial institutions actually to refer them transactions that are covered by insurance, that some of our clients are asking for support, and vice versa. So I get clients that are banks that want us to cover their position, and some banks that want to purchase positions. So that's what I've been doing for the past year. It's an interesting shift, because I do both risk mitigation on insurance and then also, I guess, loan brokering, if you were to shorten it. But I spend a lot of time in New York. I used to spend a lot of time in New York, and now we're expanding in Asia, and then we're now I have a mandate to tackle another 500 names in alternative finance, to kind of diversify our pool of investors. So it's a crazy world. I try to explain to people what I do. My wife has been married to me 23 years, doesn't know what I do, right? They think that all I do is sing and hang out and drink and smoke, which they're probably right. But the reality is I do make a living in the financial markets and trying to help clients mitigate global risk a lot now in the US. Actually, our largest market we manage around 20 billion in policies. Approximately probably like 30% are US risks, which is people when they think about supply chain, they always think that it's foreign. But Mike, most of the stuff is US seller, US buyer too. So
yeah.
So managing that flow. What about the job market? So Kevin, you've changed, right? You changed a few companies, but you've always been in that segment. Is that segment still big in the Southeast?
So depends on the way you think about it. So I mean, if you're thinking about online advertising, online marketing, digital marketing, things of this nature, then that's all expanding. Marketing and advertising more and more is moving, of course, online. There's a steep decline in TV, newspaper, radio. So in that sense, yeah, it's growing. What's interesting about me, though, is I serve a small niche in terms of working specifically on Amazon. And so that is kind of a unique area. It's not something that's terribly widespread. So that's why I get to work remote, right? Because it's hard to find people like me who sort of have this, skill set, which is, good and bad. It's good in the sense that you have something unique, but it's bad in the sense that you don't go to an average job market and say, hey, here, this is what I do. And everyone sort of, latches on. So, in the sense of at least, digital marketing and ad agencies, yeah, it's growing, but there's also a lot of fragmentation in the industry. It's, it's not the old sort of Don Draper, Mad Men style thing where you have these, core agencies. They're sort of splitting apart or, going through their own mergers. There's sort of a lot of shakeout in the industry. So in that sense, there's a lot of change. And within Raleigh, Charlotte's kind of interesting because Charlotte's very finance leaning, and good amount of, I think, tech and healthcare out there too. Raleigh tends to be, very healthcare heavy and a little bit of tech. But then after that, it kind of just splits out. So it's, got kind of a fractured city in that sense. And strangely enough, I've lived in Raleigh for, 12, 13 years, and I've never worked here. It's odd. I've always been Seattle company or Atlanta company or, now Tennessee company. So that's, maybe that's indicative of the new environment where, working in the office might not mean working in the office. And that's kind of the unique nature, I think, of where the economy's going job wise. But I don't know if that gives you the answer you're looking for, but that's the sort of the.
Yeah, well, I'm fascinated that, I always thought that most of the companies that were doing what you're doing are in California, Washington, That's why I always
First one was in Miami. There was a small startup there, right? And that's how it all sort of spun up in the first place. But, I don't know how much, Miami has its own kind of, ecosystem that's building up too. There's more and more, startups and venture capital out there. We're seeing a little bit more of it here in the Raleigh area, in terms of, different companies coming in and investing in local startups. So I think that's spread out. That's one of the bigger changes I've seen just personally. You know, it's not just the Valley, it's not just New York. You know, you can have a startup in more of a sort of a mid-tier city. Not that I own one, so I could talk in great detail about it, but you know, that's something I've seen more and more of, is people breaking out and, you know, working for a company that maybe has 10, 12 people, you know, and they have, you know, a seed round of like 500,000 or $1 million or something. Or, you know, even, you know, I would say, you know, companies like, there's one company here, Pendo, that's $1 billion company now. And so they serve kind of a unique niche where they basically give like tracking information in terms of app usage and, you know, who's going where in your app and how they're doing. It's basically for product managers, which sounds kind of niche, but then, you know, it grew from like 3 or 4 guys, ex-Google guys who are working downtown at like a remote work center here. And I think they have up to 250 million in funding now, and they're officially recognized as a $1 billion company. And, you know, that's all spun up in the last 5 or 6 years. I mean, that's, you know, to me, indicative of really where you can go or kind of what can happen, you know, within your environment. And again, you know, not a tech hub, but, you know, that's a very tech heavy company. So go figure.
Interesting. I see Alex on the line. So Alex is actually a graduate from as well. So she and I met. She's also an AKSI brother. I think Mike and Alex, you guys know each other well.
Yes.
So
Pledge class brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really? I didn't know.
Yeah. Spring 2017.
So I'm so glad that Alex joined, because we needed a female touch in this all-male ensemble. So thank you. Thank you for bringing
the delay. Mm-hmm. And pleasure to meet you all. I just came back from a bike ride, so I'm a little, you know, I apologize. But good to meet you all.
So if you want, Alex, why don't you introduce yourself, and then we'll go around real quick again, just FYI, okay? So you graduated, she graduated, she studied finance, she's trying to figure out what to do in life.
No. So I haven't graduated yet, and I'm doing nothing with finance. I work in finance and financial services as of now.
That's right.
I am and would like to be in technology. So something related to cybersecurity is the dream. I graduate in December because I'm doing 2 majors and 2 minors, marketing and business tech. Based in Miami, originally from Bulgaria. And so on.
By the way, I just have to take a pause and say that none of you read the memo when I said that none of you are drinking nor smoking. So I have you now, because you're all newbies in this. But when I said virtual happy hour, you have to bring your drinks. Come on. Mike, you should know this.
I can go get my water. Hold on.
So, real quick again. So why don't you guys introduce yourself to Alex so she knows. So the rest of the guys except Mike are all in North Carolina. So Jeff.
Okay.
You've been quiet.
Charlotte, North Carolina. And I worked with Hernan in trade sales, international trade sales. And then I moved on to global trade exposure monitoring, which is where I am now. It's been like 12 years, something like that there. And we monitor trade finance facilities for products such as letters of credit and trade loans. And all my dealings were with internal customers, no external customers like I did in sales. And I know Mike can introduce himself too. Yes or no?
No, I was going to say, you also do corporate, no? Both corporate and FI.
Just FI. Just
FI. Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yep.
So who does the same thing for you? You have a teammate that does all the supply chain lines?
I don't think there's no intermediary like G-Town, like my team for corporate. They just go directly to credit officers for corporate.
Right, because your lines are pegged lines that can be used by anybody, versus the corporate, which is just, for that deal, right. And that's that. jurisdiction. Interesting. Okay, cool. Mike.
Yeah, so Mike Babbitt, been with Bank of America for 11 years. I work with Jeff Messler. In fact, I think we exchanged about 2 or 3 communications on separate incidents today. I'm client-facing, talking to customers about international trade and making sure they're able to do their importing and exporting without issues. So, love it. It's great.
Are your customers companies or individuals?
Companies.
Cool.
So I manage companies that have sales of up to $2 billion in about 30 states.
All US based? Yeah, Bank of America, that would make sense.
Right. Well, yeah, not all of them, because there's a lot that are based outside that have US offices. But usually our customers are US companies that are either importing or exporting.
Cool.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, Alex, but Bank of America has offices all over the world, right? So I used to be the one that covered all the Latin America offices from Miami. So I was the trade product support for our team in Brazil, our team in Mexico, our team in Colombia, Chile, where we have offices.
Yeah, we're in 37 countries.
Yeah. So Bank of America, people always think that because it's because of the name that it's domestic only. And then Kevin.
So following the trend, client facing, but at an ad agency, so non-financial related. And mainly I work with brands looking to sell their products online, but it also can be digital marketing efforts. For mainly Amazon is kind of my focus, but it can extend and integrate to other types of campaigns. So, specific company all the way from healthcare providers to hospitals to online retailers are looking to reach their customers or achieve some specific end, then I might be a part of that process. So, even though mainly, again, it's for e-commerce and retail, I'm working with like National Highway Traffic Safety Administration right now to advertise for people to not have kids in cars during the hot summer months. So it can really kind of vary across different verticals. But essentially I work remote here in North Carolina for a Tennessee-based company. So I'm part of the North Carolina team. Go figure.
So I wanted to, there's 2 things that I wanted, since I have Mike and Alex on the line. So 2 things that I wanted to ask you guys, maybe share, and we'll have 2 rounds. So the first one is for the mentors, the guys have been working for a while. What advice would you give these guys about, when you started? So I know it's been a little while, but when you started, are you doing what you wanted to do from the very beginning, or how did you end up in this role? And any tips of survival or resilience that you can share with the guys here?
I'm happy to go first. I don't know that I had a real strong idea of what I wanted to do when I grew up. I grew up in a small town in Idaho, and there were basically the farmers and the bankers. And the bankers, or rather the farmers, were always complaining about the bankers, and the bankers had the money. And so I figured if I had to choose between being a farmer or a banker, I'd choose to be a banker because they had the money. And I'm not sure that I really ever knew what that looked like until, and it's an evolving kind of target. I think if I were to give you, so in that sense, yes, I think I've achieved what I set out to get. But I think if I were to give any advice or share anything, it would just be flexible, know what you want, and go after it, right? Don't be afraid to change your idea of what you think you want, or you might be selling yourself short.
How about the rest? Now, Jeff, you wanted to be a global portfolio manager when you graduated college, or?
My major was sports management, and I did an internship with a sports agent. And then it was hard to find a job, so I went to a local bank's temp agency and they sent me to their international division, and I've been in different aspects of that ever since. Export letters of credit, and now just monitoring trade finance facilities.
So what was your thought process in that to change? I mean, have you ever thought of going back to sports management, or is that something that you just have fun with? Well, I know you're a baseball fan. That I know.
I had fun with it. I don't think it would. It's not easy to make a living unless you're maybe with a sports agent. If you had a big client list, you could probably do that. But there's not really a whole lot out there. It didn't pay well, but I had a lot of fun. I worked for a minor league baseball team too for 5 years. But I kind of settled down into banking.
Now, Kevin, I know you weren't in e-commerce, right? When you started, right?
No, I mean I was an export letter of credit operations when I started for many years. So then, just kind of you learn to love it, and then I just wanted to do different aspects of it. So I moved on to trade sales after that. And then our boss Miguel left, and I kind of wanted to leave after that or try something different.
Well, that's some good advice. I take it as well, because what ends up happening, what happened in my career is I rolled with the punches in some cases. So I'm a sales guy, for those that know me. And I love marketing. It's my favorite thing in life. But I ended up in banking because my family had financial difficulties as I was growing up. And I said, you know what, if I'm gonna, I don't want to end up like my parents fighting over money. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna become an expert in handling money. And then I realized that wasn't something that I was so passionate about. I went and worked in Merrill Lynch when I was in college, and I realized I didn't want to deal with people's money. And then I loved international and logistics and all that. And I was already in the finance field. So I wanted to be close to the finance field, but more dealing towards learning about different cultures and international and global. So I got, somehow I ended up in the major banks. So I got recruited to, at that time it was Nations Bank, and I got recruited to First Union. And I went through the financial management process of interviews, and I got offers on all these banks, but they didn't have a subsidiary for international in Orlando, where my girlfriend lived. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna go after my girlfriend, forget about what I wanted to do, because I was in love at the time. And then when I broke it off, I said I'm gonna go back to Miami. And then my cousin used to work at a bank, working in international, and he told me about a job, and I took it. And from there, I learned that I didn't want to be in credit, although I had to learn it. So everything that I didn't want to do, I ended up learning, and it helped me in the future, right? So now I'm a corporate and financial institution consultant. So the skills that I learned helped me in my future of what I do now, but I didn't like it. And I didn't want to do it. So it goes to show you how you come up with one idea and end up completely with something totally different. And I've been successful at it. I've again, like I said before, I rolled with the punches, and I ended up taking full advantage of my skill set in a segment that was more serious. So because traditional bankers are less loud and less salesy, and they're more in a square at that time, and I was very creative. So that allowed me to find opportunities where they wanted to expand. So I've been in business development and sales, and it's worked out. Somehow it's worked out. So
Hernan, your advice is don't follow your heart. Do the things you don't want to do. That's the moral to your story, right? If I'm following.
The moral to my story is, you build great skill sets that you probably don't know just by doing the work. But if you're a talented person, you'll make it anywhere, right? So my advice is, my advice to people is know what your talents are, and just wherever you're at, use them to the best of your abilities, and something will happen.
That sounds
So
like
I ended up having some technical skills, and I used those to my advantage. By the way, talking about using talents to your advantage. So my best friend in the whole wide world, he joined the line. His name is Ignacio Rivera. He was my fraternity PCB, like you guys, Alex and Mike. So mine, when I was at UM in the 90s, was Ignacio. And Ignacio started in something, ended up in something totally different. So he started in marketing and then ended up in financial management. And now he worked at Ryder, the largest company in Florida, Fortune 500. And he, and are you there, Iggy?
I'm here.
So yeah, introduce yourself and maybe share some words of wisdom.
Sure. So I definitely understand a lot of what Hernan is saying. One of the areas that, when I was in school, technology wasn't as prevalent as it is now. I've gravitated towards technology, and now I'm on the I head up the data governance practice here at Ryder, and it's something that I'm definitely passionate about, and I've spent some time kind of growing into that side of it, and kind of changing my career. But sometimes it takes a U-turn to bring you to a place you think you're not good at. For me, it was in 2010. I spent most of my career kind of building a trajectory to be in finance, but I really didn't have a passion for it. And really, what I found when I stopped that trajectory was really what I really enjoyed is automating processes and working with technology to improve both sales and financial processes. So I made a big change at that point. I took a little bit of a step back for about 3 years, but I definitely I feel much more comfortable in where I'm going, and definitely are passionate about what I do every single day. And Hernan and I talk about it all the time. I don't think I would have been as happy if I hadn't made that change. But it's definitely a welcome change, and something I truly enjoy.
Yeah, I don't know, and Mike, you can also add, but what I realized is in my career that if it wasn't for the things that realizing the things I didn't like was really what defined what I am. So realizing that number one, that I hate backstabbers, right? I hate dealing with assholes, right? I hate office politics. And then I changed my mentality and switched to thinking that office politics is more like a game of networking internally. So instead of looking at it negatively, I shifted my mindset and went the opposite direction. And that's what propelled my career. When I realized that if I wanted to move in a large corporation, I wasn't an entrepreneur, right? Now I am an entrepreneur, right? But at that time I wasn't an entrepreneur. I wanted to work hard in corporate America and make it. And then I realized that there's so many aspects, right? So it's not, unfortunately, there's some things that are outside of your control. So, and Jeff, you alluded to it a little bit. You're doing something, but that doesn't stop you from doing other things that you like, right? So if I like global logistics and finance, and I also like singing, which I love singing, for example, I just do both. Just there's a time and place for everything, and I develop my passion. So the other passion that I have is helping people, and I learned that I like that more than banking necessarily, and that takes me to places you know, I wouldn't be with you guys if it wasn't for my passion in trying to help other people, you know? So it's a beautiful thing.
So what about your passion for singing? Not to interrupt you or none, but I want to hear where your passion for singing has taken you.
So I've sang in almost every country in Latin America,
Wow.
in front of thousands of people. I recorded a CD for actually Christmas music CD to collect funds for a kid that had a terminal illness. And
Nice.
I'll share the CD with you. And it's actually an English CD, not Spanish. So I sang Christmas music for charity. And you know, I never stopped singing. I do it, but I'm a singer, but I don't get paid for it, you know. I just do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we well, Ignacio, no, the other thing is that the other thing that I realized after so many years working is this is the key to life: surrounding yourself with the right people. You never go wrong when you surround yourself with people that care about you and that see you as more, you know, see you as a human being more than just a number. And that to me has made an impact in my life. And you know, I have applied to hundreds of jobs, but the 7 or 8 jobs that I had in my career have been through referrals. I have never gotten a job by applying. All of them have been through somebody referring me because of my networking, you know, in the community. So I've been blessed, you know. Just I'm blessed to have good people around me. So now we talked a lot, Mike. So what's in your mind? You know, I know we're having this call on Thursday with the wealth managers. But what's your thought process now? You went back home. Now I was telling Mike that he's making Miami his home for now.
Yeah.
You know, so what are you thinking about?
I mean, definitely based off what you said in the end there of surrounding yourself with the right people. I think that's definitely at least for a starting point for me, given where I think at least I want to get into. I think that's a good place to begin. And like you said, it's definitely weird having an apartment now in Miami. Definitely being a graduate, it's definitely weird. It's definitely still a little weird to call Miami like a real home, not back in Connecticut. But if anything, I'm just looking forward to. I'm ambitiously looking forward to the future, really, and just whatever it holds. And I'm confident that even though right now I'm currently unemployed, I truly think that if I'm persistent enough and continue to keep working hard, that things will play out in the right way. Whether or not it's, because I mean, like you guys, some of you guys said, especially I think it was Jeff, just because what you think you want to do, just because I think I want to get my seat or become a financial planner at 22 doesn't mean that at 35 or 40, whatever that may be, that's where I'm going to be. So definitely trying to keep my mind as open as I can, while at the same time being goal oriented, if that makes any sense. So yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't plan this, but the field that you are thinking of is something that Alex is working on now. Mm-hmm. And maybe you want to share a little bit of what you've learned in the past couple of months in that field. So she works in, what is it, Northwestern Mutual?
Yeah, I work with Northwestern Mutual, and it started out as primarily a job that taught me character and patience. But fortunately, I've started to work a little bit with the numbers now, which is very exciting. It's a matter of, Mike, have you taken, by chance, Marketing 340 with Sharf?
No, is that professional selling?
It is the professional selling. And
I never took it, but I've heard a lot about it.
Sharf actually is a financial planner for AXA, which is one of our biggest competitors, mm-hmm. especially in the area. So the lessons that I learned in that class tended to be pretty applicable and very relevant. But you know, I'm I'm here if you ever want to hear this side of it. If that's something that you're passionate about, I will gladly recommend you. But it's not exactly what I thought it would be. I will say that. It's much more than that. Can you imagine me, patient?
So then I guess my follow-up to that is, what was your preconceived idea of the job?
My preconceived idea was just crunching numbers. But at the end of the day, numbers are a part of everything, and you don't really have a choice but to, I guess, work with them because they don't lie. But it's very client facing, and the whole fiduciary responsibility is a big thing. So you have to be honest, and you have to think about, it's managing a lot of things at once, in my opinion. Like managing personalities and best interests while thinking about your future, your client's future, but then their families, everything. It's a lot of things. I actually had a very interesting association with it. So I was watching, I came across a pool competition, like with the balls that are lined in a triangle, then you push it and then it goes. Right. So that's what I was thinking. That is financial planning. That is financial advising. You have multiple holes that you have to hit, and everything's a mess in the middle, and then you just kind of have to make everything go in its respective order. And just kind of literally organizing everything and condensing what needs to be condensed. And yeah. And then you have to find the one white ball, which is going to hit it the right way so that everything organizes. Just a random thought. Mm-hmm.
The other thing that maybe, Ignacio, you want to talk about the financial analysis work that you used to do and how that, played into the role that you have now? So you always are a fan, and we had a discussion that you're always trying to get people from UM to study business analytics, right? Are you still there? Ignacio.
Yeah, I'm here. Unfortunately, somebody is walking into my house here. Sorry.
No. So financial analysis and BI. How did that transition happen?
Really naturally, I was looking for, for the tools to kind of analyze large sets of data. And over time, I've just become proficient in those areas, both on anything from ETL to business analysis. So it's just a natural transition. I'm gonna have to jump off here for about 15 minutes, and then I could jump back and talk a little bit more about that.
No worries. Sorry. So we wanted to, going back to North Carolina, because this is a North Carolina call, by the way. So tell me good things about North Carolina. What do I look forward to when I go there, besides good freaking barbecue?
Good people, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I don't know what to tell you besides just, I think Charlotte, and obviously there's multiple people on here from North Carolina, but lots going on, vibrant place to be. I think that once things return to normal, whatever that looks like, I think it'll be continue to be an interesting and vibrant place to be. Unfortunately, I think that a lot of us have been cooped up in the house long enough and are forced to work from home. And so I long for the days when, I would go into the office to work, mostly because it's crazy here trying to get work done some days. But to your point, what's going on in Charlotte, Charlotte's always been a really great place to live and work and just be part of the community and be part of the scene, whether that's the local festivals or the different things they have going on in Uptown. Lots of different things to be a part of.
So so I know you guys, the food there is spectacular. Every time that I go there, I gain a few pounds.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have this fusion, Asian Southern fusion, and I the other day I saw Mexican barbecue, and it's crazy how you guys fusion everything. I don't know why.
I couldn't tell you why either. I like Mexican. I like barbecue. I don't necessarily like them together. When a parrilla, that's one thing, right? But totally different thing if we're talking about trying to do Southern style barbecue with Mexican.
What about the whole bourbon craze? Is that still spilling over? I know you guys are not from Tennessee, but I know Jack could probably talk a little bit more about bourbons. I like whiskey myself. Although today I brought Canadian whiskey, which is crazy. How does alcohol play into your life? What about alcohol? Is it necessary to have a drink in life?
I'm not the right person to ask that, Hernan. I haven't had a drink my entire life. I literally have never had a drink of alcohol, except for one time when I accidentally switched my regular Coke with a friend's Coke and rum. They brought the waitress mixed up the orders, but even then I didn't have any more than a sip. So not the right person to ask. I'm sure someone else would have a more interesting response to that.
Well, I'm sure Mike and Alex had more alcohol than you then. No, in UM they don't drink, right? It's just it's just a rumor that I hear that in.
You have to know. Didn't you graduate?
Well, in AKSI, I don't remember ever not drinking. I mean, I don't remember ever. So it's funny how. So
from a product perspective, I'll say I think alcohol is a very interesting item, so to speak, to sell, because it's kind of, you're selling. I mean, with anything, you would be selling feelings to some extent, but with alcohol, literally, you're selling poison disguised as an experience. So why would you go skydiving when you can buy a bottle of, I don't know, Grey Goose or whatever? So interesting. I think alcohol is a very interesting business for alcoholic beverages, so to speak.
It is. Well, that's something that particularly now in this COVID environment, everybody seems to have, all the liquor stores. Every store is closed except the liquor stores. That's crazy.
Not only are they open, but they have lines around the block to get into them.
Yeah. So guns and drinks are the places that are always open. So yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine about the whole situation with what's happening in the past month, and how guns seem to have gone up in price, and people make lines forever because they think they're going to take away the right to own a gun, and then everybody's fearing for their safety. So we saw some memes about the guy that was people were BLM marchers, and the guy was with a machine gun. I don't know if you saw that in the news. Yeah, did you see that? So there was this guy that was there was a BLM march, and the guy just decided to stop. Him and his wife. He was with an Uzi, just standing there, and then his wife was with the gun going like that. Move on, move along, move along. Crazy stuff. Yeah, the world is definitely different nowadays. Well, listen, again, I didn't want to. So Ignacio will be back, but I didn't want to take much more time. I just want to say thank you, Mike. I know this is the second one that you did. You guys. So Alex, Mike, you are you're not in the mentor group, right? So in the mentor group is where most of the guys hang out. We don't have a global group for everybody, because then it will be a freaking crazy mess. So what we do is we try to do these things so that people can get to meet the mentors in other areas. So I would encourage you guys to exchange information with Babbitt and with Jeff. So Jeff just started with us. I recruited Jeff basically to join the Carolina team, because I think like I told you before, good people should hang out together. But you know, I want you guys to continue the dialogue if you guys can. Okay. So make sure that you exchange the information. But without further ado, cheers to North Carolina. I'll see you guys in a few months. Actually, I'm gonna be there the 27th of August that week. So we'll hang out there in Charlotte, and I'll hang out with Kevin in Raleigh as well. So looking forward to it. Cheers.
Cool. Cheers. Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.
Okay, talk to you later. Abrazo. Let me stop the recording. Hold on.